Welcome to the YCNU podcast. Join us each week for engaging conversations with campus leaders, students, faculty, staff, alumni, and community members. From academics to athletics, campus life, and beyond, we cover it all. Have someone you want to hear from? Let us know. Let's explore the world of Yavapai College together.
Welcome back to the YCNU podcast. I'm Cadu Medina, your host for today, and I'm here with my co-host, Michael Grady.
Hello, Cadu.
And also our special guest today, Ryan Avery Follensbee.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ryan.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Looking forward to talking to you, Ryan, about all the wonderful things you're doing there at the Southwest Wine Center and everywhere else you get plugged into, and we'll get to that. I know you're everywhere, but let's kick off here with Mike. Why don't you kind of walk us through this interview? We have a laundry list of things we want to know about Ryan.
Well, you know, I've interviewed you before, Ryan, before when you were just hired in June, and they were very excited to have you. And I think this is the first long conversation that you and I have had since June. Now, since then, right, you've overseen a harvest here, right? You've gotten used to the viticulture and enology programs out there. You've met the entire Northern Arizona wine community. So you've had a lot going on. How is all of that going?
It's been a fast since we first spoke, right? It's been a fast 3 to 4 months. A lot of support from the community, right? Absolutely. But you're correct. It takes a lot of time to meet all the individual players and actually get to know them, right? Not to mention the staff there, and infrastructure. There's a lot going on to our operation, right? We have an active 13 acres of vineyard. We have an active winery. We have a tasting room, and we have an educational program, right? So we have a lot going on. But,
absolutely. Ryan, what is your title now with this program? Because, I mean, it can't be the godfather of all, but it has to be something else.
I think it was high priest of wine.
Or basically, how do we find you if we were looking you up in our contacts?
Very good. My formal title is the Director of Viticulture, Enology, and the Southwest Wine Center. As you've mentioned, my name is a little long, so we can use my,
Right. Follensbee is enough to get.
When giving out my email, I often give off the shorter version of the YC email versus the longer one.
Yes.
So, yes.
And since we're on that topic, just tell us a little bit about the structure of this department today. Who are your, right hand, left hand, and everybody else in between there, between the harvest, the educational program that you have associated? I mean, who are all the other players?
We've got a full team, and I'm very, very grateful for that, to say the least. So starting off with the vineyard, we're kind of in the logic of the grapes starting. We have actually a former graduate of the program, Jeremiah Pro. He came into the role a little bit before me in January, though he had been around the vineyard for a handful of years prior to that. So he oversees the actual day in, day out growing of the grapes. His title is vineyard manager, though he also does practicum with the students. So our department, we are a hybrid learning department, but we also do have a very heavy hands-on component every season of the year. So he is not only taking care of the grapes, but also taking care of educating the students in those tactical things that are happening out in the vineyard day to day.
Right.
Now, the grapes come into the winery, and we have a new staff there by the name of Mark Schabel, and he comes most recently out of Texas winemaking, in which we actually have some overlap with Texas, right? Climatically, and some of the cultivars and the heat and the intensity of sun, there's a lot of overlap there. So he's a great fit. So he not only makes the wine, his title is winemaker and instructor of enology, he's also then therefore teaching the students how to make the wine, right? So that's a kind of a 50-50 role for him. He's busy constantly in the winery as well. And then once, we're kind of getting into the third part of the process is that once we have a finished wine, we then move it to the tasting room. And that individual is Drew Cannon. So he's been with the program, also a former graduate. So
nice.
Again, we've got a lot of, we'll say institutional knowledge, a lot of history there, and a lot of these roles. which is convenient for me when I'm learning how things have been done and what is, traditional. So Drew is there, and then we have, that's our tasting room manager, and that's, where we, display the results of all the student effort, right? The growing of the grapes gets made into wine, and then we have this little showcase, right, where we're selling the wine, and the students are represented there. And then the staff in that room there, we have some tasting room staff because it's more than just one person, and that is entirely graduates of the program, right? So we have about 6 to 7 folks that are on staff, and they are all, going back to, I think, our earliest graduate somewhere in 2017, all the way to, we have a graduate that just left the program earlier this spring. So we retain a lot of that talent,
right.
So they can speak, from their experience when talking about the wines. And it's kind of fun when things line up and they get to pour a wine they made to the guests.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's I got to say, this is a classic example of an all-around program, right? Like you have from the very beginning on the how to grow the grape all the way to bottling that wine that you made and selling that wine and retaining all those students once they graduate so they can teach the next generation in that 360-degree cycle of learning, producing, selling. It's a total
I really
career education.
like that. It says a lot about it's a complete breakdown of the discipline too, from the science and the theoretical elements of grape growing to how it looks in the glass. You go through every and it would be an incomplete education, I think, otherwise if you didn't cover the retail side. If you're doing just the retail, you're missing the science. If you do just the science, you have no clue on retail.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. I also like, as somebody who has watched the Southwest Wine Center grow up, you're cultivating a kind of nice blend of different regional expertise and longtime members with the institutional knowledge. So you have a great understanding of how things go, how things operate smoothly, and yet the doors are open to new ideas as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, great program. Is that what you used to do before you joined Yavapai College? Were you in education, or were you exclusively in the production of wine and all that?
Most recently, I was in education at an institution up in Western Colorado. For about, I think of it in semesters, 5 semesters, aka about 2.5 years, right? That's how you measure life in that discipline. But before that, yes, over a decade of actual applied, industry experience there. So,
very cool.
Traveling all over, all that good stuff, coming up from the bottom, right? Dragging hoses around the winery, moving your way up through those roles. So,
Love it. Well, now that we know where you're from, we have more questions for you here as far as, how are things going now that you're here?
How's it going? Here's your performance review. There's a lot. I mean, you were saying earlier that there's a lot to connect to, but that's also kind of a testament to how wired the Southwest Wine Center is into the Northern Arizona wine community. So there's a lot of folks to meet. There's a lot of partnerships to uphold. How's it going?
It's going great. Again, I said it, just a few moments ago, but the amount of support is tremendous, right? Not only for our day-to-day operations, but just for the concept that is the Southwest Wine Center out there.
Right.
It's done a lot. I know that I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? The directors before me, Michael Pierce and Nikki Check. And, I'm continuing their efforts. Absolutely. But there's just a lot of folks that look to the Southwest Wine Center, not just for the graduates, right? But for what it is, what it brings to the region. There's a lot of, again, support, but, there's a lot of folks that are willing to kind of held it down for me in the meanwhile. But again, it's tremendous. I'm glad, I'm extroverted because there's always folks to meet. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of new folks that I haven't even met yet as well. Right. So it's, those relationships are continuing to develop and, I'm grateful, to say the least.
I remember when, I think it was 2021, that the Verde Valley was named an American viticulture area. And I remember during that period, because I covered some of those developments, how central the Southwest Wine Center was as kind of a think tank resource for the vintners around there. And a unifying force. Maybe not the whole thing, but they certainly played a critical role in the development of that area.
Absolutely true. And there's a staff member I didn't mention that I'm sure I'll hear about. But we were blessed to have in an adjunct role Paula Woolsey. Who is a legend in the Arizona wine industry, actually received a few years so back a Lifetime Achievement Award, right? Wow. From the state legislature. That instrumental. So we were lucky to retain her, but she also has other roles. One of those being the Verde Valley Wine Consortium, which is a kind of I don't want to say a governing body by any means, but a leading body. Yeah. And they do a lot of the lobbying and things of that nature, right? She was instrumental in that, absolutely, among other players, right? So yes, and that's pretty impressive, right? To have the third AVA, and again, American Viticulture Area, that is a federally designated thing, right? There's some paperwork that has to go into play before these things are granted.
What are the other AVAs, to give you an idea of the league we're playing in? Sonoma is one of them.
A lot of those common names you've heard. Yes, a Sonoma, a Napa, a Walla Walla, all these sorts of names you probably are familiar with, Temecula, things of that nature. Those are generally pieces of earth that have been carved out for a purpose. And sometimes, a lot of times, that's a soil kind of is a little different there, or a weather pattern's a little different there. There's generally a handful of defining features that make the grapes there special, right? So within the state of Arizona, you have Wilcox, which is huge, right? A very large territory. You have Sonoita. Right? These are both AVAs. Right. And then, as you mentioned, down the road, here comes Verde Valley. Right. But again, that legitimizes the Arizona wine industry, puts a little wind in the sails, right? Because we are tremendously different, right? And when we're talking about we're carving out these pieces of land that are different, Verde Valley is tremendously different than Wilcox, right? So we are now at a point where it's interesting as a wine consumer, right? The wines are very, very different. Right? We have a different elevation. We have different rain patterns. We have physically different soils, right? And that all telegraphs into the final product. So again, legitimizing maybe isn't the best word. It's exciting. It's validating what all these folks for decades have been working towards, right? That Arizona wine is high quality, and Arizona wine has little pockets where, different expressions can be, drank.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things that's amazing to me about wine from a science angle is how certain altitudes, and this has been explained to me at the Southwest Wine Center, how certain altitudes or the toughness of the soil or the breakdown of the soil will affect the taste or the flavor or the finish of a wine, and so you're really getting something that's expressive of a particular place in a glass when you're drinking wine. I think that's kind of wonderful.
It's pretty, there's some magic there. Certainly.
That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about you because we referred to this a little bit earlier. You've done all kinds of fetch and carry on all sides of the wine industry and the academics, but you've also been a researcher for, was it Ernest and Julio Gallo?
Yep. A small Italian company out in California.
Nice. Yeah. And, you're no stranger to Sonoma. So you know the retail side, the industry and the research side. You obviously know the academic side. But when we first talked, I love this story where you talked about what drew you to wine was your experience in a wine store in Utah. Could you share that?
Oh, that's got to be good.
Of all places.
What did you do, Ryan?
Thank you. Humility is one of the things I strive for, so I don't often talk about, my background. But yes, since I was 21 years of age, which was a few decades ago now, I've never held a position outside of the wine industry, the adult beverage industry at large. So it's you pick up some things along the way.
Absolutely.
But yes, at that point in time, I was a ski bum, quite frankly, right in the early 20s, and I got a position at a very nice wine store in Park City. And learned the ropes. So it was more out of necessity, right? It was more of a survival thing, but turned out it was actually the beginning of my career. But there was a moment there where I realized and kind of just, saw how people talked about wine. This was also going into, the fallout of the 08, 09 downturn, right?
Right.
It looks like a recession-proof industry, right? And so I was like, okay, there's something there. But there was this moment where when you realize that every bottle of wine is a time and place, and you're in these, beautiful wine rooms, but you're realizing it's kind of like a museum, right? Is that, this is this place in Italy in this year, right? And you look over there and you're like, oh, here's a different, region and time. And they're just held in, kind of suspension, right? They're just, they're paused in this animation. And it's so cool. You can travel to different places and different times by just opening a cork, right? It's very interesting, right?
It's very inclusive. Yeah. And this is why it's so much better than root beer, I think.
It's a time travel machine.
It is. It is. There's this. It kind of reminds me of the movie Sideways, where Virginia Madsen has that wonderful monologue about wine trapping. What it does, it traps the spirits and the industry of workers you'll never meet and weather you'll never experience in a bottle. Super cool. And it's kind of poetic. I like that.
So that created a big impression in 20-some-year-old Ryan, and then from there, it all kind of ended up here.
Just boom.
Kept on going.
Took one nap and here we are. No, that was, I walked into the industry, right, at that point in time. That inspired me to, I was hungry for education at that point in time. And that's what led me to becoming a certified sommelier. I read these giant wine books cover to cover, right? That was another thing that drew me in was there's so much history in wine.
Yes.
And there's so much going on now, and it's always moving forward that, no one person, man or woman, could conquer it, right? There was always so many of these pockets and corners and disciplines and things of that nature. There's so much wine knowledge out there. So that was that began really for me. So I became a certified sommelier, which was great at that point in time in Utah. The culture was changing, right? As far as a little bit more of a wine culture. The majority of it was around Park City and a little bit in Salt Lake City.
Sure.
It was small as far as mileage was concerned, but that was the beginning of a change there, which was fun to be a part of. And at that point, I became more curious on wine trips out to the West Coast, right? Salt Lake City is beautifully located for, if you can drive 12 hours in a day, you could actually hit up into Washington, you could hit Oregon, you could hit Napa, Sonoma in a 12-hour drive, right? Started doing these weekend trips, and just at some point was up in Washington, was looking out the window, I was like, what's a pretty good job? Wait a second, right? And you get to hang outside, right? You get to work in a vineyard. You get to make some wine for 3 months a year.
Right.
Wait a second. What am I doing? Right. So it was a trip up to Walla Walla, who had a very similar program, right? They have an educational program, hands-on educational program as we do. And just everyone in the town talked about it. I heard about this program, 5-6 times. And within 6 months, I was enrolled. And I had picked up my life, say goodbye to Salt Lake City, and started the production side of my career, right? So prior to that, I was kind of sales and that sort of deal. And then that's when I actually began the nuts and bolts of growing grapes and making wine.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Isn't it funny how your vocation kind of sneaks up on you sometimes? Yeah. Well, coming to, so that kind of brings us up to last year. when the Southwest Wine Center was looking for a new director, what had you known previously about the Southwest Wine Center, and what made it appealing to you? Like, I could really see myself there.
Prior knowledge of that, as I mentioned, I was in an educational institution about 8 hours up the road, right? So there wasn't that much distance between us. I was actually through the emerging winemakers competition that was held in the spring and will continue to be held in the spring. There had been an invitation from Michael Pierce for my students to come, submit their wines and join in, right? So that was, I think, actually the first time the Southwest Wine Center was put on my radar. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Thanks. It was a little postcard he sent along, and, I got a hold of it and, and all that. So I had, checked it out and looked at it, and I'd heard some industry mention it, right? That they spoke of it with a lot of prestige, right? And that sort of angle. And it wasn't until spring when my supervisor Heather reached out to me, the associate dean of Verde Valley campus, and I got to begin that relationship. Right, it was actually to teach a wine science class, which is up my alley. Absolutely, the instruments, the concepts, all that good stuff. And that was really what warmed up our relationship, right? So it kind of worked, got to know the staff, got to know the students, actually got to take a trip down here in February for what we call a grape camp. So as a hybrid program, a lot of that, lecture materials delivered online via Zoom, but there is still a need for physical contact hours, and that occurred in February. So I got to come on down and actually see the beauty of, the Southwest Wine Center.
It auditions well, does it not?
Yes, in the chemistry lab. I was like, this is a real chemistry lab, well equipped, all the things you need, right? And that's I'm a nerd, right? I'm a cork dork, as I say. But yeah, that chemistry lab, I fell in love with it. Got to see the vineyard, and again got to meet the people, and that's when I had not yet entered that conversation to be the director, but that's when. That's when I wanted it.
Lightly suggested at some point, like with a napkin kind of slipped to you, like, "Hey, would you like to be the director?"
We started talking about next steps at that point. Yeah, so it was great. Yeah.
Cool.
Now, strangely enough, though, this brings us to Wine and Dine Under the Stars, which is the keynote fundraiser for the Southwest Wine Center, and this will be your first one.
This is my first one.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
So can you tell us a little bit about what that'll be like and what you're preparing for there?
It's coming up very soon. It's tremendous. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh, that'll be nice, right? But attending these planning meetings and just the intensity of all the folks that volunteered their time, right? And everyone who's putting this on is part of our auxiliary group, Friends of Southwest Wine Center.
Good group.
And it's tremendous. And they have a whole special committee within that group just dedicated to putting this on, right? Led by Lisa and Suzanne. They spend I don't know how much of their time they spend, but they're down to the details. So they are actually kind of revitalizing it this year, right? They're changing it up a little bit, right? So in prior years, the entirety of the event has actually been held up at the Southwest Wine Center in the surrounding area around it, right? Tents and tables and food vendors and wineries. This year they're doing a little bit different, and there's going to be the main event's actually going to be down in the center of the Verde Valley campus. There's the Mayberry Pavilion. Right. Very nice structure. Large, expected to hold about 150, 200 folks, maybe upwards of 250. And they will still utilize the Southwest Wine Center, but it's going to be as a VIP event, kind of a event before the actual
instead of an after party, kind of a pre-party.
Yes. So that's going to be tremendous, right? So there's all the sponsors and those who are heavily connected to the Southwest Wine Center are eligible for this VIP setting, where it's going to be myself, the staff, all those folks I mentioned. The YC Jazz Band will be there playing for ambiance. Wow. That's pretty cool.
That's incredible.
Let me tell you, Chris Tenney finds a way to get the band into all the good gigs, doesn't he?
Lucky us.
Yes.
I've heard they've got some very sparkly jackets that they're excited to wear. So,
the sparkly jackets
for the gala. Yes, I guess they get to break them out. That's what I've heard. They're pretty excited about those. So we have up there again, just meeting the folks that Michael Pierce. So there'll be a lot of folks who have been instrumental in the Southwest Wine Center there. The student group that we have, which is called Grand Cru, right? So there's actually a student club we have for anyone in the wine program. They're actually going to be putting on kind of these educational demonstrations, if you will. We'll actually have some stations up there to teach the guests a little bit about kind of sensory of wine. We'll have some soil there. We'll talk about, our vineyards. So it'll be an immersive, right? We're always interested in an educational angle, right? Whatever it is, right? About the wine that's in front of you or the vineyard you're looking at, whatever it is. So that'll be fun. And then we'll head on down. That'll be about an hour and a half. And we'll head on down to the main event where, I mean, again, this is where I'm just more and more impressed every time I go to one of these planning meetings is how much support, again, people are giving back. There's about 22 wineries that are going to be pouring there at the event, and a lot of them are graduates. A lot of them have gone through the program.
That is super exciting.
So this is very cool. Tremendous. That's them giving a little piece back, right? And it's so neat. And a lot of these folks are down in those southern EVAs that we talked about. Not everyone's around here, the Verde Valley, right? We've got folks coming up from Wilcox. We've got folks coming up from Sonoyta, right? Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool. Right, if you attend this, you can see, you obviously get a great time. We have multiple food vendors, right? About 8 different food vendors, 20 different wineries, right? It's going to be a great time right there. But if you really kind of look around, you'll see a lot of the history there coming back, right? Folks that have a lot of knowledge and folks who are just, proud to be YC graduates.
And with all that happening, do you think there will be time for people to look up and see the stars? Or there's just too much down to earth?
It used to be called Wine and Dine in the Vines. So it's now it's bigger now. It's gotten out of the vines and it's under the stars.
That's terrific.
It's also one of somebody who does the marketing materials for the college. It's one of the most physically beautiful events to see because it's under this elegant umbrella of pin lights. You have all these restaurants in dedicated tents offering finger foods and things. They also bring the alumni that come in from the Southwest Wine Center also bring their own wines. So you can sample the local vintners, you can sample the local wines, but also, some from across the state. And it seems like a really, really lovely event to just inhabit.
Absolutely. And that's Saturday, October 25th, 5 to 8 p.m.
Yes, indeed.
Tell us more about the logistics here. How do people sign up for this? And before you say that, who is this event for?
This event, this event is for, the students. It's for support of the Southwest Wine Center. As Michael mentioned, this is absolutely our largest fundraiser of the year. Again, a lot of sponsors, corporate sponsors and individuals. This is they physically donate to the Southwest Wine Center, but this is for the program. For the health of the program. Okay.
Community invited or not? This is more an internal event?
It's a ticketed event, right? The community is welcome.
Okay.
The organizers, as Suzanne and Lisa, as I mentioned, have done a tremendous job. Tickets are getting limited, and it's not just buy now. They are. They've done a great job at almost selling out the VIP tickets. I do believe there are some general admission tickets still left.
Because I have 2 weeks from then, so that's probably going to be sold out quickly.
So, Saturday, October 25th from 5 to 8 p.m., and that's at the Verde Valley campus on Black Hills Drive in Clarkdale. And I have a link for this at event.gives/WD25.
That's wonderful.
So if anyone wants to, I think you'll just have a wonderful time.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Ryan, let me ask you this, like from a marketing perspective here. Is this part of our strategy here to kind of open up that area and invite the community in to realize how wonderful that setup is and the opportunities that are created in that space there? Are we going to have more of these events? Is this how we plan on kind of reaching out and letting people in? And really, because I've heard several times people say, "Oh, I didn't know there was a winery up there." Right? How many times do we hear that? It's just crazy. Like,
yeah.
the people close to me actually said that. I'm like, are you silly? You have to go. Just go. Just pack the car.
We're
go see these
victimized
people.
by our own breadth.
Right.
Sometimes we're always, you also do that. Yes, that's a
right.
college-wide thing.
Is this part of the strategy? Can we expect to have more of these events?
So, the scale and the grandeur that is Wine and Dine, I think that's going to be a once a year, right? The planning for this one begins in spring, right?
Right.
When after
Your
the
committee's listening and they're going, don't answer this wrong.
I'm sure I'll hear their comments, but this is huge, right? It's big. So, but to answer your question in a different manner, part of what I am building and spending my time doing is finding different ways to open up to the community. Maybe it won't be a wine and dine event, but we are reaching out to different segments and different sectors. For example, next Wednesday, we are on the Founders Circle, which is a beautiful little area in the front of our Southwest Wine Center with every donor's names on the wall. We are hosting a stargazing event. Right.
So that's perfect for that.
Local has exactly. We have a very nice open sky over it, and all kind of a dark sky policy out there. Mm-hmm. So a local astronomy club and some astronomers are bringing, I think I've heard about 6, 7, 8 different telescopes out there.
That's wonderful.
And it was actually just in the Cottonwood Journal 2 days ago, right? They were on the front page. They happened to mention where they're doing it, which is great. But they're going to bring all these fancy telescopes out, right? So again, is there a natural overlap between astronomy and wine? I don't know. Not that I'm aware of. I haven't run into it yet.
Well, yeah, I've had wines that make you see stars, but that's a slightly different thing.
So we are, we're opening up our space and welcoming a lot of folks. Next spring, we're bringing back yoga in the Founders Circle, right? So things of that nature. We are doing a few more things that are just different than what we've done, right? I've been kind of tossing around the idea of kind of holding I wouldn't say a TED Talk because I think that's licensed, but
it's some kind of retreat type of thing.
We have a space, and we have a lot of obviously educated, diverse folks here at Yavapai College, right?
Right.
We could have a little space for them, right, and kind of have a presenter series of some sort, right, in the winery. So these are the ideas that I'm thinking about for the community and welcoming everyone back to see what we have. I mean, it's tremendous.
Right.
I've given a number of tours to prospective students or other colleagues or whoever it is, and when you stand there, it's tremendous. You're looking at Mingus, right? You've got a beautiful acre vineyard in front of you. If you turn your head to the left, you can see Sedona Red Rocks, right? That's tremendous. I mean, it's not a bad place to clock into work every day.
No, not at all. Not at all. And this goes to a question that I want to ask as a long timer, because I can still remember when the bones of the Southwest Wine Center were a racquetball court, right? All those years ago, and the wonders that have sprung up from there. And they were, every year they'd be like, we're planting vines, we're planting another section of the vineyard, we need you to come out. It's just mind-blowing to go from there to all the award-winning wines and major strides that the Southwest Wine Center has made in the course of a decade. Mm-hmm. And it's an institution that is obviously established. It has a new director. And so one of my questions is you've answered it partially, is where do you see it going forward? What directions do you want to, are there themes, ideas you want to emphasize for the next stage of the Southwest Wine Center?
Absolutely. And, to just comment a little bit on your previous statement about the 10 years, a decade, it's pretty easy to say, oh yeah, that portion of the vineyard went in 2014 and that one in 2015 and that one in 2016. Very easy to say those things. I mean, logistically, tremendous, absolutely tremendous. I mean, an acre of grapes, it's about just under 1,000 vines, right? That have to go into the ground, right? So yes, absolutely impressive, the growth and the trajectory at which that growth occurred, right? That's something I've been astonished by. As far as the moving forward in the future of a direction, I'm working on some things out there. It might be too soon to let everything out of the bag, but we're looking a little bit more towards ways to engage the students and teach. We're always looking forward the modern modern thing, right? Or we want to lead with the technologies in the industry, right? So in the vineyard, we've been looking at implementing some new technologies. Our vineyard manager, as I mentioned, Jeremiah, is fantastic at finding the newest things. For example, one of the newest things to hit the market was a bird laser. Right. No harm to the birds. But
it sounds scary for the birds.
Not like the birds make it out. But it's actually kind of shoos them away. Right.
Oh.
So it's like one of the newest things.
Oh, there you go.
That
right.
makes sense.
Simple technologies like that. But we're always looking for that, which is, and the same thing in the winery, new gadgets, new sensors, things of that nature, because we want those students to be, the best equipped with cutting edge knowledge. As far as, we're tossing around the idea of maybe a little bit of a research block, right? We have an opportunity. UC Davis has some very interesting root stocks that are novel. And they're salt tolerant, drought tolerant. We're in conversations about kind of seeing how they do in Arizona. So a little bit of a research angle, of course, right? As far as right now, the immediate answer is continue to learn. Right, there's
right.
Like you said, don't rock. No sudden movements. But yeah, I've got my eyes towards a couple things as far as continuing to support the industry with things that we do here. Right, whatever we're doing here, sharing it with the industry, whatever knowledge we're getting. So yeah.
That's wonderful. It's going to be great to see what you come up with as you move into this next phase, and what the Southwest Wine Center can contribute to the wine community regionally and across the country as well.
Yeah, lovely. I personally want to know, what are the hours for the tasting room?
If you want to have a traveling podcast that plays from the tasting room, you're looking to book that. I know a couple of guys.
Mike, how come that idea didn't come up before we scheduled this podcast? Seriously.
I know.
That's where we should be recording this.
There you go.
We have good acoustics there as well.
Yes. We travel well, especially when there's wine at the other end.
Wonderful. Well, Ryan, I think we kept you hostage here for quite some time, and appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And super excited about all the work that you're doing, and you and your team. Is there anything in the horizon here that you want to highlight and kind of get people's attention on before we wrap up?
Well, we're a we're educational institution first. So spring enrollment opened 2 days ago. Right? We're never a bad time to jump in and start having some wine knowledge. Right. We have actually individual kind of tasting and wine sensory classes. If you're maybe not a vineyard person or a winemaking person,
there's still the tasting room.
There's still wine knowledge courses out there. But no, we appreciate Wine and Dine's coming up. That's our big focus focus of the year. And beyond that, in the spring, we'll be able to start showcasing the 2025 wines, right? So the students are in the process of kind of putting all the wines to bed that they just made in August. And the cadence is that the whites and some of the reds will start coming out about, maybe April, May, right? So that's an exciting time for us, as well as getting those in bottle and kind of showing our newest vintage of winemakers, right? So every year, the cool part about our winery is we have about 15 new winemakers, displaying their efforts. So we always look forward to that in the springtime.
This sounds like such a great place to work.
All right, here's the follow-up podcast then in April. All right,
there you go.
Put that on the calendar.
We're just going to contrive some reason, and the trouble will be getting us out of the tasting room.
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much again.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate having you. Thank you, Michael, for all the wonderful questions. Anything else that we didn't ask him? Did we save that embarrassing question to the end?
I think we got through all this. Now we'll enter the true and false session. No, I think let's tag it with the Wine and Dine Under the Stars logistics again. That is this Saturday, October 25th, from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Mabry Pavilion in the center of the Verde Valley campus in Clarkdale. And if you need more details or want to get tickets, which are going fast, go to event.gives/WD25.
There we go. Mic drop.
Mic drop. There you go.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the YCNU podcast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation today. Don't forget to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got someone in mind for our next chat? Reach out and let us know. Until next time, keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.